Assalamu alaikum to all our viewers and welcome back to day 3 of the Soulful series. I'm here, Shamil Fazluddin, with my host.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Shazia. Thank you for being back for day 3, our third Tuesday of the Soulful series and our Soulful Tuesdays.
Absolutely, it's been amazing so far. I think we've had some very good talks, in-depth analysis on the overall theme that we have of tawakkul and getting deeper into that, and very insightful talks, don't you think?
Absolutely. First, on day 1, we had Sheikh Ali Hussein Datu, who spoke very deeply about tawakkul and leaving everything up to God. And then for day 2, we had Sister Farzana, of course.
Who is no visitor to our platform.
Yes, our main mentor.
Yeah.
And of course, today we have a very special guest who is also going to touch on our theme for this Soulful series, which is Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, which is an ayah from Surah Al Imran. Yeah, Surah number 3. It's a very beautiful ayah. And I think Sheikh Ali Hussein Dato did respond to the question that I had asked as to why people often use this specific ayah to give them that strength. I think it's to keep the hope, and there's a whole context in the whole ayah. So it's a very beautiful ayah to recite, and I think everyone should read the whole ayah as well.
You know, it's amazing how every day something or the other comes together in life. I mean, don't you feel like that many times? Like you're going to do something tomorrow and today something happens or you hear something that, is linked to what is to come. So last night I was in a madrasa class and the topic was one of the du'as from the Quran, as we've been doing through the prophets. And it was Prophet Yunus's dua. Where Prophet Yunus recited the Ayatul Karima, right? Inside the belly.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes very well with having pure 100% tawakkul in Allah. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's amazing how in the depths of darkness, we should turn just to Him. And today, I think our speaker will uncover all of that for us.
Absolutely. And I think today is going to be a bit of a heavier session than the previous 2 sessions. And today's topic is from trauma to transformation, using faith to rewrite your story. But before we begin, as always, we'd like to thank Dubai Jamaat and the Wellbeing team of Dubai for giving us such a platform to discuss and to destigmatize mental health.
Yes, if anyone wants to reach out, you'll see the email address in the contact below. It's bewell@ksimcdubai.com. Reach out and inshallah someone will get back to you. But I guess let's get right into it.
Yes, let's get on to
So
the
without
speaker.
further delay, let's read the profile of our speaker for today. So today we have Sister Uzma, and she's a qualified holistic transformational life coach, business coach, and consultant, accredited by ICF, EMCC, IAPCNM, and CPD. She's an international best-selling author, sought-after public speaker, and has been featured in top publications like the New York Journal, ABC Money, and California Herald. With expertise in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, cognitive behavioral therapy, Ho'oponopono, and thought field therapy, she's dedicated to personal and business transformation. It's actually Ho'oponopono. She's also the founder of Club 313, a global nonprofit for youth empowerment, and is currently pursuing a master's in Islamic studies and Hausa studies with a mission to uplift Muslim women worldwide. So, dear viewers, please welcome our dear speaker today, Sister Uzma Naqvi. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Uzma.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you? Jazakallah khair for having me.
Alhamdulillah, we're good. Thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule and gracing our studio and our small setup. It's always great to hear from professionals as yourself.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Uzma. Thank you for joining us today.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. It's a lovely studio, by the way, and it's a pleasure, honor for me to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you.
So we'll get right into it, Sister Uzma, because we understand we want to get the most benefit out of you. Inshallah, there's so much that we can learn from you. So I think let's just, to put it out there for everyone, let's just start out with what exactly is trauma. What are the different forms of trauma we have? When somebody hears trauma, we normally relate to something that is physical. Oh, I fell down, I really got hurt, or I was riding a bike and I broke my arm. So that's a very traumatic experience. But what about the mental trauma that others can't see or touch?
Yes. It's a very powerful question, actually, to begin with. And it's one that we need to, especially in our communities, discuss a lot more than we are discussing at the moment. Trauma is not just the event itself. So whatever occurred is not just about that. It's an experience that we lived through, and the way we internalized it, what the meaning that we added to that, and what messages we got out of that, and how that impacts our life. Anything that happened in our lives can end up being a trauma. So it's not necessarily the major traumatic experiences like you're mentioning, and even experiences like war or violence or domestic abuse or a divorce between parents. Those are major issues, and they are absolutely traumatic, and no shadow of a doubt there. But it can be seemingly very trivial matters, things that we wouldn't put down to trauma. For example, just simply being compared to other people. Often in our communities, we hear parents say, look at so and so's son, they've done so much better. Like, why have you not? Why aren't you picking this up? Or just comparing even siblings between, or forcing each other to be a certain way, or forcing a child to eat, for example. But essentially, it's being left with your emotions, with whatever small or big event that's going on, without the support to express safely, to have the emotional availability while the child is navigating through whatever it's they're going through, whether it's the tension between the parents or divorce or whatever else is going on. So if we've not had that supportive environment where we're experiencing something, and even if it is something trivial, at least, to so to speak, but we've not had the process of actually being able to navigate what it is that we're feeling and how we've internalized that, then that can become something that ends up being a part of our lives for the rest of our lives, because it shapes our core belief system. It shapes our emotional regulation and how we put ourselves out. It shapes the way that we view ourselves, also the way that other people view us, and also the way that we think other people view us. So our entire process of the way that we function is based on the belief systems that we have, and that stems from whatever traumatic experiences that we've been through. And it has an impact. It can even have a huge impact on our physical well-being. Sometimes you see women being and I mention women, it can be both for men and women, but I work primarily with women. But being hyper independent, or people overthinking and just being in their head all of the times, like thinking and then just not being able to switch it off, and over analyzing conversation, or they said something about me, or are they talking about me, or I can't really trust, and there's a doubt within yourself. And sometimes we go out of our way to like really get people to like us, and we're trying to please everybody, but we're exhausted on the inside, or we feel guilty for saying no when we actually should say no, because we don't have the capacity to do the things that we're doing, and we end up lacking boundaries. There's no line to draw. It's like, where do you stop with this person? And we end up dismissing our own feelings. We worry a lot. There is a lot of anxiety. We feel inadequate, not enough. These are all different ways in which trauma can show itself. And there are lots of different types of traumas. It's not just one type of trauma that I'm talking about. These are just very generic ways of describing the kind of symptoms that you can end up having. But let's say somebody who's gone through a rejection trauma, for example. Rejection trauma is where a child, specifically a child, like when they're navigating through life at a very, very young age, they experience this deeply painful experience of being excluded. They feel unloved. It might not be the case that they're unloved, or it's never the intention of the parents or the caregivers or the teachers or the peers, whoever it might be, to make them feel unloved. But in that set of circumstances, however the setup is, that child is feeling excluded, unloved, undervalued. And that experience solidifies a belief system to say, I'm not worthy of love. Especially when you mentally start to compare yourself with someone else. Let's say another child is being treated slightly differently than you are, or they're being spoken to in a different way. The way you internalize that is going to be what makes you and shapes your belief. So it might not be the truth that your parents are actually differentiating between the two siblings, but that's your experience, and that ends up being what you carry forward into your life. So then as you navigate life, you start to talk to yourself negatively, and this is all very deeply subconscious. It's not somebody sitting there, saying, I'm terrible, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. You don't say those words to yourself. It's just the way you feel, the way you put yourself out, the way you actually connect with people, the way other people connect with you. You constantly assume that others are thinking the worst about yourself. That's a result of that rejection trauma, of seemingly very trivial matters, but it's a question. Why would they even bother liking me? Like at a deep level, you kind of question your own self. And that can really push you into becoming a people pleaser, which is a term that's widely used, and it's used for the right reasons. Because if a person feels inadequate within themselves, they feel not enough within themselves, then they're going to exert more and more and more energy into making people like them. Like, I want to gain approval. If you feel, or if I felt inside of myself that you don't quite like me, you've invited me on this beautiful set, for example, and I'm sitting there, but inside I'm thinking, I'm not sure if I'm enough for this. I'm not sure if I can actually, like, if I have what I need to be able to speak about this. So I'm going to feel internally inadequate, so I'm going to push more. I'm going to try to get you to approve me, but it might be at my own expense, at the way that I need to be. I need to feel relaxed, I need to feel at peace, I need to feel like you are giving me the time. Like right now, I've been talking for several minutes and you haven't interrupted, and that's respectful. But if I had that trauma, and if I was thinking about it, I'd be thinking, oh, I need to talk faster, I need to say things quickly, because what if they think, oh, I'm talking too much? And just doubting yourself constantly, where you feel like you've got to get the approval for other people to even like you. And that in turn has an impact, because you have a difficulty in trusting other people. Because then when I talk for a long time, and if I have that kind of mentality, I'm going to think, did they like what I said? Did they were they questioning? Should I have said this? Should I have added this? I'm just giving an example, obviously, how this can come up. So you hold back from sharing your true feelings. Even in intimate situations where you're very close relationships, you don't have the capacity to be able to sit and just really be vulnerable, be open. Like, this is how I feel. You don't have that communication pathway to navigate around relationships in a way that's healthy, in a way that you're able to share your feelings. So because we still have the need to be liked, to be approved, to still be wanted and needed, but we carry this trauma of just not being rejected all of the times, we will never ever feel like this chase never ends. And you end up feeling you have a very low self-worth. Then you're constantly this persistent feeling in the back of your head, I'm just not enough, like there's something there that's missing, and people can see that. And you just put yourself more and more in, and you struggle in relationships. You struggle forming relationships first and foremost, and then you struggle maintaining healthy relationships in a meaningful way. You can't carry on long-term healthy relationships. It keeps you keep going through the cycles of people wanting to leave and you trying to hold on to them tightly. And there's this cycle of they call you too clingy, too needy, but actually all you want is to be seen and to be loved. And there's this inner struggle of just not being able to articulate yourself. You're over apologizing, you're giving too many compliments where you don't actually want to, but you're just wanting to be liked somehow. You're avoiding asking other people for help. So many different things, but the core belief from a trauma like the one that I'm discussing, that's just one aspect, it could be hundreds of different things, is that I'm fundamentally unlovable and people will always leave me. So that's just example of rejection trauma. There are many other types of trauma, but I can carry on going and going. You'll have to press my pause button because
No, definitely. That's
It's
fantastic.
a few
It's
things
a lot
to
to take in.
tap into. I
Yeah.
think you covered hyper independence, which is quite common in a lot of women,
Yeah.
especially.
Yes.
And then you tapped into people pleasing, which is also very common among the youth as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a lot of girls have also come to me and told me how I feel like I'm I'm into people pleasing a lot.
Yeah.
And what do I do about it? And I think this is stems from a lot from school, from parents, as you said. It's the very minor things that we don't really know that's affecting us in our childhood, that
Yes.
eventually you get to see it when you're much older,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it may not be as such, or you don't recognize it at that age. And then
Yes.
you also tapped into fear of abandonment, which is something that's also quite common among people who felt that they are quite unloved, or people who have been rejected quite often, or people who have been physically also abandoned
Yes.
by, it can be through friendships or
Yeah.
through different relationships. Or and
Yeah.
I think it's very, very important that these things need to be addressed. And I did see online that trauma is not just what has happened to you, it's also what has not happened to you.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's also something that your needs haven't been
Met.
fulfilled, that, you may think that you don't have any trauma from your
Yeah.
childhood, or it's trauma is only something that's something major or life-changing has happened. But yes, these minor things can also cause, like you said, they form our core beliefs.
Absolutely.
And so how do we move past this once we have recognized that these are our symptoms, or this is what we're going through, at any age, especially the age from like 20 to 30, when you're trying to figure out yourself,
Mm.
you're trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
um how do we move forward from
Yeah.
this?
Yes. Again, a very, very important question, and one that we all need to reflect on. In NHS, which is our local, in the UK, we have the National Health Service. They normally have like a statistic that says 1 in 4 people are struggling with mental health. I genuinely believe that 100% of us have something or other that we're carrying. It's just to what degree is it affecting us, or to what degree can we cover it up, to show ourselves to be normal. But we're all struggling with something or other, and we have to face these things. This is the whole process of getting to know yourself at that deep level, and it deeply connects with your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Because while you're riddled with all these triggers and traumas and anxieties and fears and all of these things, it's the playground of shaitan. It's exactly where he wants you to be, and it really disconnects us when we have self-doubt, when we have doubt in others. We're not true to ourselves, we're not true to who we're meant to be, and so we lose bits of ourselves along the way. So it's extremely important, not only for the fact that it makes your life feel better, it makes your head feel better, you mentally feel at peace, but also because it disconnects you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well, in that authentic way. Like, your true version of who you are is never there for you to really connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so many of us carry these emotional wounds, whether they are from childhood, whether they are from past relationships, unresolved experiences, that they obviously influence how we show up in the world. And avoiding these things and suppressing these things and never talking about these things actually makes it so much more worse for yourself. It creates this we call it the comfort zone. Everybody calls it the comfort zone. It's not very comfortable at all, because you're living with all these triggers, and there's always something you're dealing with, and it's like niggling away at your head. But the reason they call it a comfort zone is because now there is like this familiar territory that your mind has created, and you know your way around there. You can navigate. Like, you have coping mechanisms that you used when you were 5, 10, 6, whatever age, and you use still the same coping mechanisms as you did then. So let's say a child who went through a neglectful period with his parents at age 6, and his coping mechanism was that he would run into his room. He's just not going to talk to anybody. He's not going to share his emotions anymore. And as an adult, as a 36-year-old man who has a wife and children, his coping mechanism is the same as what he used as a 6-year-old. Now he's avoiding any vulnerability. He's avoiding any deep conversations with his partner, and she's desperate to get to know him better. And she wants to express herself, and she wants him to express, because that's the way to we connect. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us this way. Allah built emotions within us because he wants us to experience this, because emotions are a call to action. They are basically telling us something about ourselves. But if we tune off from them, How do we know what they're saying to us? How do we derive the message out of them? So we're kind of disconnected entirely from ourselves, and that makes us disconnected from our loved ones as well, and it creates a lot of rifts in our relationships. So the first thing when it comes to healing trauma, when it comes to actually understanding yourself in a deeper way, beyond anything else, beyond a shadow of the doubt, with the very first thing you would ever have to do is become aware, like recognize. That's the step one, like recognition of what it is that you behave like, recognition of your triggers. Do you run away from these kind of emotions? Do you cling on to people because you really want to be seen? Do you act like, I think it deeply connects us to our deen as well, to Islam. And the reason I say that is because everything within Islam is very deeply dependent on our ni'ah. Like whatever I do, if I don't have the right ni'ah behind it, it's not qurbatan illallah. So when we start to question, am I doing this because I want that person to like me? There's a funny story I'd like to share with you. I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly, but my mom told me when I was a very little, and I still remember it to this, and I think it fits with what we're saying. So there is this man who's praying in this open space in this yard, and he's praying, and he's praying super fast, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and he's doing it really, really fast. And then suddenly he hears a rustling sound behind him, so he thinks there's somebody walking behind me, and so he starts to pray really slowly, and so Allahu Akbar, like really khushu, and he's like really slowing things down, and he wants the person to see that, oh look, how intertwined he is with his Lord, and he's so into his salah and stuff. And then he finishes his salah, and he looks back, and it was a stray dog walking behind him. So he was like, oh that. And so when we have a ni'ah, whatever ni'ah we have clarifies why we're doing something. So my advice to whoever is listening, if you have triggers, if you do certain things, let's say people pleasing, because Sister Shazia, you mentioned that that's a prevalent thing in our youth. If you find yourself people pleasing, you question yourself. First of all, you have to recognize, am I people pleasing? Am I doing this because I want other people to like me? But your ni'ah, am I doing this qurbatan illallah? Therefore no one needs to see my good behavior. No one needs to praise me for what I'm doing. No one needs to come back to me to say, I'm so proud of you, you did really well. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Allah to see me, recognize me, and reward me. And that's it's a very secret love relationship between you and Allah. And it builds tawakkul more and more when you do this. But on the other hand, if we are doing it as a response to trauma, our direct intention is going to be that I want Shamil and I want Shazia to say, Uzma, you did such a great job there. And that's going to fulfill me, because that's a need that I'm trying to get fulfilled. That's the need that's missing. And every single one of us, we have deep and undeniable needs. We cannot unneed our needs. They are there from the moment we are born, right? And we have basically, as we grow older, when we are born and as we're growing older, some of us never receive the love, the security, the validation that we desperately need in the way that we need it. Not that we don't receive it at all, because parents are doing the very best they can with what they have. This is why whenever I'm dealing with mother and father wound, for example, when we're doing that kind of healing work, I have to put that down as a caveat, because in our faith there is a high status for parents, and you never want to look at your parents as though you damaged me. The whole process, the whole meaning behind it, the whole reason for doing it is that you can let go of resentment, is that you can have this empathetic view of your parents, to say they honestly did what they did because of what they had. They got it passed on from their parents, it came to me, and now I have it, and I want to stop this cycle. I do not want to pass the same trauma on to my children, and the only way I'm going to stop this cycle is by understanding my behavior, my trigger. I want to actualize myself. I want to get to the essence of who I am. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and he kind of set him aside for a long, long time, and then eventually he brought him. And in Surah Hijr, verse number 29, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I fashioned him, and when I blow my spirit into him, that's when I want you to bow down to Adam, to all his malaika. And everyone bar shaitan bowed down, right? And if you think about what changed, why did Allah ask the malaika to bow down to Adam, who'd just been created? He'd been created with clay. It's the spirit of Allah that was blown into Adam alayhi salam that elevated his status all of a sudden. Because before that, he did not ask to bow down. So this is why Allah has given us this status. We are the children of Adam. We have the same spirit that we carry. We are inherently worthy because Allah created us that way. If we are feeling unworthy, then know that it is coming from a trauma response. Know that it is because there are certain needs of ourselves that have not been met. When we can understand our self-worth in that way, that we are deeply intertwined and connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ceasing that connection we would cease to exist. There is no way that Allah doesn't look at us, see us, hear us, is connected with us all of the times. So we have to really try to get to that essence of ourselves. This is the spirit of who we are. But the reason we can't get to it is because our core needs go unmet, and we spend throughout our life, from our teens, from our very young age to teens to 20s to 30s to 40s, 60s, 80s, whatever, we go about our life subconsciously to fill those voids that came into our life from a very, very young age. And this is why we're still trying to get that need met. So there are 6 core needs. There are many needs, but the core needs that each one of us absolutely need filling. One is the need of certainty. Like, we all want to feel safe. We want some kind of security. We want some kind of control in our lives. So that's the security. Imagine that certainty was taken away from you at a very young age, that you had no certainty. For example, the children in Palestine right now, there is no certainty that they're going to have next meal. Look at the trauma that's inherently, like, they are getting it now, because that's something that is a scarcity. So they're going to try and get those needs met in roundabout ways throughout their lives, until they turn to healing. The second need is variety, which is polar opposite to certainty, is to create differences in our lives. So it doesn't have to be all monotone, exactly the same throughout your life. We want change. We want to meet different people. We want to experience different places and different things. And it helps us to grow. It helps us to learn more. So that's a need that we have. And imagine you never get that need met. You're just stagnant in one place. And that we will try to get that met in so many ways. And often we question, why do people cheat in relationships? Why do couples go through a place where they're married, and even if it was a love marriage and they got together in such loving environment, and one of the partners ends up cheating? Well, it's because they're trying to get this need met of variety, or they want to create this new me, somebody appreciating me again. They're still lacking that significance in that person's, when life goes steady, it becomes boring, so to speak, right? And so they're trying to seek that elsewhere. And then the next need is significance. And it's so important to understand that the need to feel important and valued is so important. And when this need is not met, we chase status, we chase validation. This is where we become people pleasers, and we try to get that from all external sources all around us to feel worthy again. And then another need is love and connection. It is undoubtedly one of the most strongest needs that we have as a human being. From the moment we come out of our moms, we have the need, and if this need wasn't fulfilled, we would die. Literally within days, we would deteriorate and die. The need for love and the need for connection, to be seen deeply, to be cared for, to be understood. This is one of the core needs. And if that need is not met, our entire life will be riddled with so much pain throughout our lives, because we'll be seeking love, we'll be seeking connection. But while we're seeking love and connection, at the same time, we'll be petrified of love if we didn't receive it. Sorry, I've got sun shining right in my eyes. And so we're trying to seek love still, because it's still a need, but we're not doing it in the right way. We're not going about it in the correct way, because we've never learned how to communicate that. We don't know how to receive that love, right? And then another is growth and contribution. So there are so many different things. And when we don't have these needs met in a proper way, in a healthy way, then what we do is we try to get these needs met subconsciously, and without knowing it, some of the things, people lie. Why do they lie? Because they're trying to get a need met. People drop hints. People guilt trip others. People sacrifice themselves to come across like a hero. This is people pleasing. People are passive aggressive in relationships. People give each other silent treatments. People are emotionally punishing other people, or emotionally punishing themselves. People make fake compliments. People try to fit into a group that they're not a part of. People might be seductive. People make false promises. People are doing other people favors when they actually don't want to. People are acting like victim. Oh, I'm so ill. Why do we say we're ill when we're not ill? You know, essentially we're trying to get that need met of somebody saying, oh, how are you feeling? It instantly gives us an attention, and that's what we're looking for. So in a very long-winded way, I'm so sorry because I could talk for England for these things, but essentially recognize your behaviors, your triggers, and question yourself, why do I do this? What am I trying to get? What is it that I'm actually trying to do? So that you can start to dissect that and understand the core reason as to why you're doing this in the first place, and that will give you some insight into why you're behaving the way you are.
Beautiful. You know, as you were sharing, I was just thinking of a few things. Like, you know, you shared earlier on that sometimes we question ourselves, and we keep questioning ourselves. Am I good enough? Have I done good enough? Could I do better? But sometimes, or what society has taught us, is that that is self improvement.
Yeah,
Keep improving all the
yes,
time. I think even Islam wants us to improve all the time. So if I'm questioning myself, uh, couldn't I have done that better? Have I done this better? Although I am doing self talk, but it is also for me to improve.
absolutely.
Number one. Uh, Number one. So is that's not linked to trauma, is it? Number one. But with the follow-on question, when we say that, you know, sometimes I feel when I'm young, when I was young, when I was growing up, I didn't get the love that I should have gotten. I feel unworthy. Or maybe I feel I'm fine. But then society has made it sound such that, oh, you know, you should have gotten this type of
Mm,
love growing up, and that's what makes you. And that's now starts putting me into a thought process of, oh, I don't feel I'm worth it, or I didn't get it enough.
mm,
Before she answers the
Hmm.
question, so the second part of it is it because you're showing a few signs or symptoms, or is the person showing these symptoms that society is telling them that you should have gotten a certain way or certain type of love?
mm. I mean, the recognition aspect will always will have to start with your own self. The very first thing I want to say is you have to take 100% responsibility for who you are and how you behave. It is only when we start questioning ourselves, it's only when we start to understand our thought processes that we will even begin the process of healing. Because without that, we will always continue living in pretense, because that's what we do. We have these masks of ego, and all ego is a form of protection. It's trying to defend you in the face of all the other hostile situations all around you. So you've got to have this armor on, you've got to have this mask on, and if you took that mask off, you're vulnerable. Like, if people got to know the real fears inside of you, they would never want to speak to you. That's your perception of yourself, right? So you have to protect yourself by putting this ego mask on and walking around like, you don't care, and this is all a form of protection. So we have to get to a point where we're actually able to recognize that, and that's from within us. But sometimes this answer will come from other people, because if other people are being able to trigger us and they're making us question about our behaviors, like I'd say something and then somebody questions it, instead of getting triggered about that question, think about where that question might be coming from. Why is that question there in the first place? What is it that they're trying to get me to think? See, 80 to 90% of self-torture happens in the mind. So, recognizing these patterns and these beliefs are an absolute essential prerequisite to any healing and even spiritual awakening. Every attachment that we have are literally stealing our deep awareness that we have within ourselves. You can learn to be a person who lives beyond any suffering forever for the rest of your lives. Not challenges, suffering. We choose to suffer because we have all these things that we're riddled with. And often we don't understand like that aspect of ourselves, like that deep essence of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with. And so we're just living on the very surface level version of ourselves. And so it's really hard to understand that. So my take is that everything and everyone around you, everyone that you come across, especially those who leave a mark on your heart, people who disappoint you, leave you, reject you, abandon you, make you feel terrible, they make you question yourself, these people are placed kind of specifically and very strategically in your life to help you understand your own self in a deeper way. It's a very deep concept, and I probably shouldn't have brought it up because we don't have enough time to explore in it. But let's give you a quick example, and hopefully you might grasp it. When you have your heart broken, for example, it is you projecting a missing aspect of your own self onto that person, and they are merely mirroring it back to you to give you an indication. They're just the physical manifestation of what you are needing from your own self, what you are missing within your own self. So it's very hard to believe that people who hurt you can actually end up being the very biggest blessing in your life if you actually connect it back to you healing yourself. If you can look at it in a way that, what is it that Allah is trying to teach me through this person? What is it that message that I need to derive out of this pain? Because Allah said, I'm not even going to give you a pinprick, so much as a pinprick, without rewarding you and without giving you something in return. So how is it possible that we go through this immense pain of being rejected, of being left behind, of not having what we are desiring, and then nothing comes out of it? The only reason nothing comes out of it is because we haven't asked the right questions. Our framing of the entire situation is so wrong that we ask, why did this happen to me? Not, what is this trying to teach me? And so when we reframe our question, and and also in the whole thing of tawakkul, and this is something I teach in a huge extensive way, and I think it's really important just to drop that in because I know I'm conscious of time. When we talk about tawakkul, people say often to me, oh, just pray and have tawakkul, Allah knows, Allah will make it better. I don't agree with that notion. It's a very controversial thing to say, especially as a Muslimah. But I want you to give me the opportunity to elaborate on this, because I think it's so important for us as Muslims to understand that when it comes to salah, dua, tawakkul, it is not one thing. It is not just you doing the dua and you doing the tawakkul and then just putting your guards down and then that's it, like you do nothing. Dua and tawakkul is a twofold action-based thing, which means that I tie your camel and have tawakkul. We don't ever tie our camel, we just have the tawakkul. Like I've said to Allah, I want this to work out in this way. I'm deeply attached to the outcome. So I want you, Allah, to do it exactly how I say it. Otherwise, it's not correct for me. Where is the tawakkul? In the actual tawakkul, what we will do is I will pour my heart out to Allah and I will tell Him what's paining me. I will tell Him how people have treated me. And I will then sit with a pen and paper and I will pour my heart out to my own self and say, this is how it made me feel. This is what I'm thinking. These are the ways that it's triggering me. These are the behaviors it's taking out of me. What is it trying to teach me? What's my action in this? What do I have to do? So that when you've done a dua, you've promised to Allah, I'm going to do my bit. I've tied the camel and I'm also taking the action. The two things are together. It's never just pray. And I remember going through a divorce, and it was a very difficult time for my life. And I remember speaking to some very well-renowned ulama in our community. And one of the basic things that you are told to do when you're going through one of the most difficult times of your life is just go pray. Just go and pray out. Talk to Allah. And I'm not negating, like, I'm a believer. I'm not negating the power of dua for never. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying you are never told the practical aspects of what do I do though? What do I do? Yes, I've done the dua. And actually, when you do dua without action, it shakes your entire belief system because you're thinking, I'm talking to Allah. Why is He not listening to me? But it's because you are not doing your part. You're missing the entire tying your camel bit, and you're just doing tawakkul, and then you're deeply attached to the outcome. You're saying, Allah, do it this way, otherwise I'm not going to accept your whatever it is that your outcome. So our whole job is the recognition of our behaviors, understanding where this is stemming from, because there is a root cause to every trigger. When a lady comes to my coaching practice and she says, my marriage is in a very rocky place, I'm thinking I'm on the brink of a divorce, I'll say to her, let's park the divorce. We're not even going to discuss the divorce. I want to know you. I want to know what you carry inside of yourself. I want to know what your story is. I want to know how you framed it. I want to know how it triggers you. I want to know how you respond to situations, how you react to situations. I want to know the root cause of the rejection trauma. I want to know the root cause of abandonment trauma. When I heal you, and you now like look at yourself in a very wholesome, holistic way, you're in a much better position to either survive that marriage, because you will now have tools to understand his reactions and also understand your own reactions. So you might completely change your mind about finishing the marriage, or you might be in a much, much more powerful position to say, I'm making a very conscious, thought through decision that I know that this is not something I want for my life. But anybody who's making a decision about leaving a marriage while they're brokenhearted, it is the worst thing you can ever do. And I'm not that coach, and I know there are many out there who do. you never leave relationships unless you've given it everything you've got. Don't ever walk away from anything until you figured your own self out. Your first port of call is always going to be you, only you. And I also negate this whole isms out there, feminism and put, women empowerment and all of it. It's not just about you. It's about healing yourself and seeing how you are so deeply connected. We are connected to each other. We have rights, we have hukuk over each other. We can't just, shake those things off. And especially if we're carrying like wounds from our childhood, which means that sometimes we have resentments towards our parents, and we just brush them under the carpet. We pretend they're not there. We'll go and have chai with them. We'll sip tea and we'll pretend that everything's good. But internally in our hearts, every word they say, it hits our heart. It's like a dagger in our heart. That's how we're living, and it's a complete pretense. Like, close your eyes, close your ears, see no evil, see no, hear no evil, and then just keep going as though it's all okay. It's not okay. I don't think that coaching and self-healing is a luxury. I think a lot of people see it as, I'm coping, I'm all right. I've got tools under my belt. I can just lie my way through this, whatever. No, I think it's essential for everyone to go through a purging process. And I also think, and I'm trying to work on something where I wish I could do this, that I have a essential course, which is a pre-marriage course. Like, you can't get married until you heal. Otherwise, we're going to save a huge percentage of divorces if we go through that.
I think some of our communities around the world, I know in Dar es Salaam, they've started this where
Amazing.
couples, before they want to get married, have to undergo a 3-month course.
Amazing. Absolutely fantastic. It's so needed, honestly.
Yes.
It would save so much heartache.
So much heartache.
Yeah, but I think that's a very important point that you put forward. You cannot get married if you don't heal.
Absolutely.
Because it's like two people coming together with their own stories and their own traumas and what they've been through, and then the clash that it causes, sometimes you don't fathom that, and then there's a lot of pain.
Yes.
And yes, I think there is a lot of the world that we live in, especially that is a lot of, we've mixed, and I've said this a lot of times, that we've mixed a lot of self-love with being selfish. There's a very thin line, and everything has become about self-love, but instead people are being extremely selfish.
Yes.
And it's like, you're being horrible to other people in the name of self-love. That's not self-love, And
this is
yes,
why,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to cut you, because I think it's such an important point, and this is why, like, in when I talk to any of my clients, and we have this discussion, because I always tell them that if any healing process, any healing that you go, whether it's with me, whether it's with anybody else out there, if your healing process is not deeply connecting you back to the law of Allah, if it's not connecting you back to the Sharia, if it's not connecting you to your relationships, if it's not deeply connecting you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are not healing, you're regressing. And in the name of progression, in the name of healing, a lot of us are regressing. And it's a heartbreak, because we're actually seeing within the Muslim Ummah, in the name of all these isms and all this empowerment and all of this, we're actually hurting people who have hukuk over us and people we have haq over. And this happens when we actually think we're healing and we're doing we're becoming more powerful, but that's not it. It's actually another form of pretense. This is another layer of ego that we just wear in order to protect ourselves even more, but that's not the right way. We want to get to a vulnerable aspect of ourselves where we can actually communicate openly to people. And I'm not saying you can be vulnerable with everybody, because you can't trust everybody with your personal, like, how you're feeling on the inside. There will be certain trusted people that you can be, but even with those, we don't know how to communicate. So that's our job, to really unlearn the things that are not serving us. And when we relearn, we've got to make sure that we're doing it with Islam in mind. It's not just about you. It's not just about your healing process. It's about every other life that you're going to touch along the way. I'm really sorry, Shazia, I cut you mid-sentence.
No, that's okay. It's absolutely well said.
Just adding on to what you said, Shazia and Sister Uzma, is that we become selfish, but isn't that going with one of the needs that we have of wanting to be to have importance, significance?
Yeah.
So I become selfish, and this is what the world teaches me today. But yes, alhamdulillah, we have
it's a coping mechanism to become selfish.
So Where do we find the balance in that? Where does one find the balance in?
I love that question. It's such a powerful question in any need, not just the need of being significant, because that's one of the most important ones. It goes back to understanding your ni'ah as to why you're doing something. When you have a recognition that you're trying to get a need met, but you're doing it in the roundabout way, you're not doing it authentically, you're not doing it properly, then of course you're gonna carry on doing what doesn't serve you anymore. Where do you draw the line is sometimes we're so fixated on the external aspect of other people meeting our needs that that's the only way we're ever going to feel better. Like if you, brother Shamil, or if you, Shazia, say to me, Uzma, you are an important person, I will feel important. That's such a fragile ground to place your significance on, because tomorrow you can change your mind and say, I hate you. I don't like anything you say. I don't like the way you speak. I don't like your voice. I think you're just a nobody. I don't want anything to do with you. My whole sense of self, my whole sense of everything that I've built upon resting it on you will crash completely, because if nothing else, if you're the most amazing people in the world and you continue with that narrative that I'm the best person in the world, you could die tomorrow. And then where's my sense of self? So we cannot place our significance, our love, our all of these things only on external sources. We have to, and this is why looking within is the most important aspect of yourself, is because a lot of the needs that we're trying to get met by other people, it was a need that needed to be fulfilled by an external person when we were 5 years of age. It's not necessary that that need is fulfilled by an external person now as well, but sometimes it is. Like, for example, love and connection is all to do with the other people. Of course you're going to need somebody else to love you back in order for you to feel connected to them. But how are we doing it? What is our action? What is our niyyah? Like, what is our intention in trying to get that person to love us? I've known people who buy people gifts so that they can kind of get them to like them. I've known people who pretend or lie or drop hints or do all of these things in order to be liked. Of course, that's not the right way to go about it, because it's inauthentic, it's not true. This is why it deeply connects to our faith, because these are, again, diseases of our heart. When we are lying, when we are not true to who we are, when we are trying to do something but we're actually doing something else, when we're saying something and doing something else, these are two very polar opposite energies. That's why having a pathway in recognition is number one priority, because it's got to come from within yourself. It's got to be a recognition within yourself, not somebody else pointing it out to you. And that can help too, but it's your job to understand your own action with everything that you do, to understand, why did I just do that though? What was I trying to achieve in that? What was I trying to get from the other person in order for me to get this? Is this a healthy way? Could I have done this a different way? Could I even do this for myself? Do I need the other person to do this for me? If I do, am I communicating it in the best way I can? These questions will help you. It's because we never sit with ourselves long enough. We're so scared of our own company. Everyone likes to say, you know what, I don't lie. I'm not a party person. I don't really like going out too much. I love my own company. I like quiet. I just, have chai and I'm just
Me
chill.
time.
But, me time, they're actually petrified of me time. People who are not healed. Because the minute they're on their own, the only thing they can do to get away from themselves is scroll.
Scroll.
Because that's the only way to pretend to, like, still be, like, if I was to put everything down, everything, I just shut down everything and I'm sat by myself with nothing. Imagine what will come up. We're so uncomfortable. Within seconds, we were reaching out. We're like these addicts, right? And where's my phone? Okay, imagine the phone falling behind the bed. It's like death. It's like, oh my God, like, oh, and I need, like, you're hyperventilating. You will push the bed. You'll get the strength from God knows where. Like you need your husband to move the bed otherwise. But the minute your phone falls down, you can lift the entire room up. You can do it suddenly. Why? Because we're so desperate to feel better again. Because I can't sit with myself. What will come up? How do I know what to do with that? It's like a can of worms that you don't want to face, because it's scary. It's like, I don't know who I am. I don't want to know who I am.
Different version of me will come out,
Yeah, because our mind has worked so incredibly hard for the 30-40 years or whatever age we are to come up with the coping mechanisms to protect yourself. This is a survivor mechanism we've got here. And when we are alone, other things come up. And then it says, like, I don't like this. I don't like to, I want you to pretend to be someone you're not, because that's the comfort zone we like. because I know my way around. I can pretend much easier than be myself. Like, who the hell am I now? Even I don't even know myself. So we run away from ourselves to be someone we're not. But then when we're hurt because other people aren't accepting this version of ourselves that we're not, and we don't even know that we're not this version of ours. It's so confusing, but I hope that you're understanding that there are aspects of you that aren't you, and until you get to know those, you will never truly feel deeply connected with yourself or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Beautiful, beautiful. Unfortunately, we've really gone over time today,
Yes, we have.
but it's so riveting. I think we
Yeah,
could
I
continue
have
on and on. Yeah.
lots of other questions,
Yeah.
but inshallah, we're going to have Sister
This means we'll
Uzma
have to have
back.
a
Yeah,
separate
we do.
session with you again. Yeah.
Inshallah.
And
It was a
we're not
pleasure.
just saying this, but Alhamdulillah, we've really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. We could go on, and the time just doesn't seem like it is gone anywhere, but it's actually 50 minutes now.
Yeah, I think
Alhamdulillah.
I think trauma is a very important topic that should be deeply dissected properly with multiple sessions so that
Yeah.
people can at least feel like they're because like you said, when someone is in that stage of trauma and that state, they cannot express themselves, especially with words. You cannot express your emotions. So to be understood like that, I think it really helps.
Inshallah, I think Sister Uzma, at the start you told us you're doing some series called Healing Hearts, yeah, which is coming up.
Yes, inshallah. That's a new program launching in April after Eid, inshallah. It's for women, and it's a 10-week intense healing program. And we kind of go through all of these aspects of healing. So the first week is all about kind of really recognition of what it is that you're carrying, like are these triggers coming from in the first place, so that we can actually understand the root cause. And then in week 2 we go through the ego, the mask that we wear. So this is more about revealing your own behaviors, which can feel very uncomfortable but extremely liberating at the same time, because it's like, oh, I did not even realize that this is what I was doing and this is the reason I was doing it. It's like uncovering yourself for the first time. Some people like, oh my days, I've just realized very quickly. I had a client once who we went through this ego work with, and she every Sunday she used to go and dedicated her like 3 to 4 hours every weekend to spend in an old people's home. And it was a really nice thing that she did. And as we did this ego work, she actually came to a realization that it wasn't done for the right reasons. It was, actually her true nature wasn't in it. It was because of her in-laws. One, she was trying to get away from them, and second, it was like everyone in her vicinity said that's such a noble thing to do, and it was fulfilling a need. And so she came to this recognition, and she took like 6 weeks out. She said, I'm just going to work through this. I'm going to really get a deeper understanding. And then when she went back, she said, the way I connected with those old people, it was a life-changing experience completely, because now I was doing it truly, authentically. I genuinely wanted to be there, whereas before I was doing it because of my other needs that I was trying to get filled. So that's what can happen. So second week we go through that uncovering, and then in third week we go through the inner child healing. So this is all the past like stuff that happened in the childhood, where the original cause of like all these things, the root cause of the things is. And then in week 4 we go through mother and father wounds. So this is where we have resentments towards our parents, or even if we don't have resentments, things that happened, the needs that didn't get fulfilled in the way that they needed to. And then so we kind of heal that. And as we move on, there's lots of other things, but we cover attachment styles. So because of the way we were parented, we are a certain attachment style. So there are people that avoid, there are people that are very anxious, there are people that are fearful in relationships, and that has a major impact on the way that we carry relationships. So we kind of go through the healing process of that. And then in following week, we kind of go through feminine energy, because most of the women now are very masculine. I can do this. I'm going to be a man. I'm going to be equal to you. I can earn just as much. I can do this. And you just lost yourself completely. There's no flow in the feminine energy. We've just kind of like, we're just shoulder to shoulder with men. That's not how we're meant to be. Our fitra, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, is very soft, very nurturing, very peaceful, very kind, very compassionate. We've lost all of that. So my aim is to restore that so we can get back to that level of ourselves, like the way we're meant to be. So it goes on and on. It's like a 10-week, and then at the end of all this healing process, we go through forgiveness as well. So truly letting go of the things that we've held on to for like 20 years. You'd be surprised. There are people that hold grudges on till 20, 25 years, and they're not willing to let them go. So we kind of we cut the ties for that. And then in the end, we go through this beautiful session called Becoming Formless. And this is where I teach people to let go of everything, your name, your job, how many kids you have, where you live, everything that you know about yourself, and come to the inner awareness of who you are, like your spirit, that spirit that Allah blew into you, that He blew into Adam alayhi salam. We connect with that. And so nothing around us that we've constructed in our mind matters anymore. This is the true you. So you can really understand the soul aspect of yourself. And this is where you become a person who's almost like untouchable in terms of no amount of suffering can ever make you suffer anymore. It's just learning. And so you completely pivot the way that you think about yourself and that you think about your suffering. So we go through that whole process of becoming completely formless and being one with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a deeply spiritual and a very healing program starting in April. So if anybody is interested, Brother Shamil, I can send you the details and then you can pass them on to anybody who wants
Yes,
to.
please do that. That we will do. It'll be great, and inshallah we'll share it with those. But Sister Uzma, thank you so much for your
Yes,
time. We've
thank you.
really enjoyed this time with you. We've learned so much, taken away so much, and inshallah, I think we are gonna have a
Her
retake of
back,
this. Yeah.
yes.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you so
But
much.
until then, inshallah, pray for us as the big nights are approaching in the month of Ramadan.
Yes.
And let's remember all of us, all of each other in our du'as. And inshallah, you take care and we'll speak to you soon.
Inshallah. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Jazakallah. Hafiz. Wow, that was a lot, huh?
Yes, it was
That
quite
was
deep,
power
very
packed,
deep.
really needed.
I had thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so. The topic trauma from trauma to transformation.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid topic. I think we
Yes.
should speak more on this. We should take take it further.
Take it further.
Yeah.
Break it down bit by bit.
Yeah,
I
bit
think,
by
you know,
bit,
and
because it is quite a lot for people to understand, for people to take, for people who are completely unaware of these terminologies
yeah.
to actually go deeper into
And
it.
if you
So
look
yeah.
at every single aspect, someone or the other is facing something or the other in that. We might not be facing everything together, but
Yes.
some points here and there. And
Yeah.
but inshallah, I
Definitely.
think this is
Yeah.
something that we should look into.
Yeah.
But our apologies for going way over time today, but it was just so riveting, and inshallah, we've all taken away as much as we've taken away.
Yes.
But I think, Sister Shazia, this leaves us with just one more session
One more session next Tuesday,
to
inshallah.
conclude our Soulful series.
Yes, to conclude our Soulful series, and we really hope that this has been eye-opening, or you've learned something from these sessions, because even a small difference is what we're trying to make.
Absolutely.
And also these sessions are available
On our
online on YouTube, and yes, the link is always up on our group.
Yes, so that's it for today, and inshallah we'll see you all back here next week Tuesday, same time, 4:30 p.m. Same platform. The link will be shared.
And same hosts.
Same hosts. Yeah. Until then, take care.
Hafiz.